And we are live. Welcome back to another live Jive archive. I hope you guys are doing all right tonight. Just chilling here at the hotel. Thought I'd hang out with you guys for a little while. I forgot to grab my charger for my cell phone, so I better set that up now. It's fucking cold here in Beijing today, man. Let me check that weather. Let me see what the weather is. It says it's like 27 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know how much that is in centigrade. I can't think. Below zero. It is late in America right now. 2:15 a.m. in LA, so New York's really late. New York's like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., something like that. Not too bad in Stockholm and Berlin, though. You guys are in your afternoon. So maybe we can get some viewers from our European friends or Australian friends. Our Australian friends is probably around the same time. Afternoonish, right? I forgot to turn on the music so that the dead air doesn't kill me, all right? Ooh. Let's see if we got the music playing. Can you hear that? Let me do the channel blurb, huh? Welcome, wizard, warrior, wanderer, wayfarer, and wildcat alike. Wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you may be receiving this transmission. I'm your host for the hour, Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon to Self. Chilling in Twilight Zone Old Pete King. Deep within the central kingdom of the celestial dragon. Coming at you on a Tuesday night after work. 6 and a quarter. 6 and a quarter p.m., guys. 14th of January, 2025. Sitting in my bathrobe. Chilling like a villain. Able and willing. For whoever's out there at Happy Lad tonight. I tried to upload some pictures on a PDF, but my computer for some reason wouldn't let me. I spent like the last, 20 minutes making a PDF, and then my computer wouldn't let me turn it into a PDF because I don't have the pro version of the software. It's kind of a bummer, huh? That's okay. I'll find something here to chill with you guys and chat about. I got lots of different shit on my computer. Let me see. I got to probably go a little further back. Golden Book of Wisdom. I wonder what that is. You can have a look at that. Might be fun. See if anyone shows up. We'll keep this open for a little while. I'm not going to feel pressured to talk the entire fucking time. Let me see. Let me do the banners before we do that. 'Tis I, Imperious, Master Magus, Grand Wizard, the Esoteric Order of Dagon, Eastern Star Division. Friend and well-wisher to man and mankind alike. Hit the thumbs, guys and gals, and everyone watching. Go to this website. Go there. Put a little something in the tip jar. Holy art thou, Lord of the universe, the vast and mighty one, creator of heaven and earth, maker of all things visible and invisible, master of both the light and the darkness, he who was, is, and shall be. We adore thee and we invoke thee. Send us one of your divine spiritual agents, our holy guardian angel, to protect and guide us through the innumerable snares of the earthly sphere, and a cleansing wind to disperse all negativity and endless human opinion. Teach us those things which we must know for the completion of the great work and the glory of thine ineffable name, Adonai. So it is commanded and confirmed, so mote it be. Amen. All right, guys, drive to 1,000. Help me reach 1,000 subs. How can you do that? I don't know. If you just hit the like button and leave a comment, I think that helps. You could share out a video. Out of 2,000 videos, maybe there's one on there that you think is cool enough to share. Maybe not. Put something in the tip jar. You can help me buy Budweiser. Budweiser tall boy. Having one. Celebration time, man. School's over. The semester is final. The Grand Wizard of our academy gave the end of the year speech today. So that's the end. That signals party time. For all y'all good looking sexy people. We'll leave that banner up for a while. All right, why not? Let's go ahead and let's dig into this. What's called Golden Book of Wisdom. That's kind of interesting, huh? What do they got in here? In the Golden Book of Wisdom. The Hermetic view of religion. Looks like some pretty good stuff. Let's check it out. Check it out. Let me see if the feedback loop's even working. I'm checking the ideas room, guys. If there's anybody out there, make sure you say hello. Let me know where you're hailing in from. Let me know where you come from. So let's check this feedback loop one time. Looks like we might have a wanderer out there in Happy Land. Good looking out, wanderer. I'm glad you stopped by. Greetings and salutations. Mikasa es su casa. Make yourself at home. Going over the Golden Book of Wisdom tonight. It says I'm broadcasting. It says Frank Monday in a bathroom. Open chat. Very cool. Yeah, that's working. So we're dialed in. We are dialed in. Let's see what's on here. First page. Bam. It's like the fourth page in the Book of Wisdom is the fourth tarot card, which is Emperor, which depicts a wise man, King Solomon. The description of the fourth card is a very great assistance to magicians, spirit magicians, and capitalists, for it allows them to penetrate more deeply into the secrets of wisdom and thereby enables them to solve the greatest problems. This is true not only from the point of view of cognition, and thereby from the point of view of wisdom. Yeah, that first tarot card, our fourth tarot card, the first in the zodiac. It's the first in the zodiacal cycle, Aries. Is it Aries? Think about that. Yeah, Magician, High Priestess, Empress, and then, yeah, the Emperor is Aries. And so the very next card, the Hierophant, would be Taurus. And then the next one would be the Lovers, would be Gemini, right? Memory hasn't failed me. If memory serves me correctly, which I think it does, we're doing good. This is the Golden Book of Wisdom, guys. Happy, happy. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Check it out. Let's get some real magic going. Abra. Presto, change-o. Presto, manifesto. What we got in here? An initiate must be able to answer any question asks anytime. If he has followed it, he must be capable of immediately solving any problem with which he may be faced regarding universal laws. The theorist will also provide theoretical knowledge, because he will be able to answer for himself any questions concerning those universal laws. That's why you keep your tarot cards handy, so that at any given time you can answer a question. So you can change up the hey, that's kind of weird. Oh, circle. You like the circle? You like the squaw? You like that one? Pretty much just circles and squares, huh? I don't know if I like that red color. I think I'll stick with blue. Yellow's kind of nice though, huh? Then it makes my head a little more square. A little more squaw. Let's go with that. We'll go back to that. That's block. It's got minimal. Classic. And bubble. I think I like minimal. Yeah. We'll go with that. I'm going to change this color to yellow. It's not a perfectly yellow color, though, is it? Is that any better or no? Kind of a weird yellow. Almost green, huh? No, that doesn't do any better. That's a little better there, I think. Not going to overthink it. It is what it is. Welcome, one and all. Welcome, Wayfarer. Welcome back, Wayfarer. We're going over the book of wisdom tonight. You're doing all right out in Happy Land. Logically, it is impossible to accommodate and explain wisdom in its entirety in a single book. Impossible to do in a single book. You are invited to join the show tonight. That's why I wrote Frank Monday in a Bathrobe open panel. So if you do want to join, make sure you let me know. You got to say something in the chat room though. I'm not bringing on any assholes or idiots tonight. I'm done with the AI. Right? Okay. Okay, you bailed out, whoever you were. A part of universal wisdom, however, is contained in this book. Above all, the subject matter of my 3 preceding books will be illuminated from many aspects. This book will help anyone who is seriously studying and practicing its contents to become more acquainted with universal laws and their effects, whereby he or she will expand their consciousness and increase their knowledge. The more they identify themselves with the comprehensive subject matter, the more they will be fascinated by the greatness and power of these laws. And they'll be filled with boundless awe and look up to divine providence with humility. It's good. Humility, you know something about that? Do you know something about being humble? Not presumptuous? Looks like we have a visitor. Around Happy Land, good to see you. Yellow face there. What's that face look like? Is that the crucified Christ? Crucify him. Cool stuff. Good. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom, Wayfarer. You're doing all right tonight, man. In the secret schools for prophets and priests of all ages, the 4th card, the Book of Wisdom, Aries, King Solomon, served as the fundamental subject matter which prepared the initiates for their high officers as instructors, initiators, and teachers. This book has thus been a work of initiation, revealing the deepest mysteries. Good stuff. Huh? I really like it where it puts me in the picture like that. It's kind of weird. Do better. Let's see if what that does. A little cooler, huh? Yeah. Whatever, right? Let's roll with the punches. The neophytes consider the Golden Book of Wisdom as an examination paper on their spiritual paths. Therefore, this fourth scientific work can, with good reason, be regarded as the foundation of esoteric hermeneutics. Thus far, the high mysteries symbolized by the fourth tarot card have been passed on only in the language of symbols. The tarot is nothing but symbology. Consequently, they have usually remained obscure to the intellectual. That's the thing. So many people claim to rely entirely on logic, reason, and they abandon their intuition. You gotta go with your intuition too. You gotta balance the two. You can't be entirely an intellectual egghead, right? That's no fun. That's no fun at all. The reader will no doubt appreciate the fact that with the permission of divine providence, I have made an effort to translate the fourth book into the language of the intellectual in order to make it more intelligible, not only to the initiate, but to the non-initiate as well, i.e. the philosopher or theorist. Anyone who completely masters the Book of Wisdom will have a thorough knowledge of the foundations of Hermetic philosophy and may be considered a Hermetic philosopher. You got to completely master it, though, which means basically memorizing every of its universal laws and being able to actualize them and apply them in your life. The author. Doesn't say who the author is, huh? That's okay. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe there's a little something about the author later on. Let's go through it together, you and me. Why don't you read for a while? I just read for a while. Let me check this feedback loop. Sounding good. It's perfect. You like that music, man? It's daydreaming. That's the free music on StreamYard. It's very nice. Sets the tone, huh? Okay, the Book of Golden Wisdom says, there are two basic philosophies of religion. The first is the relative, and the second is the absolute or universal. From the beginning of humankind to the present day, all those religions which have belonged to the relative philosophy of religion have gone through their initial stages, have reached their peaks, and during the course of ages have come to their end. Each relative religion had its own founder. I think we kind of know all this shit. Where's the meat of the thing? The more universal laws a religion contains, the more universal truth it represents and preaches, the longer it lasts. Thus, the most truthful of the mystery sciences must be Taoism, because it's the oldest, aside from maybe Babylonian tradition. But Babylonian tradition wasn't passed down in an unbroken succession of masters. The succession was broken, scrolls were lost, and then it was recovered. Whereas Taoism was passed down from antiquity, from prehistory, in an unbroken succession of masters. That was Zen. This is Tao. A true adept will see in each relative religion, regardless of the historical era in which it may have existed, fragments of some basic ideas that have their origin in the universal religion, which point to universal law. Therefore, the adept appreciates each religion equally, without paying attention to whether it is a religion of the past or whether it still exists today. Hermetic science is probably one of the oldest, I would reckon, if it can be considered such. I think I'm gonna drop that banner now. It's getting a little annoying. That rolling banner. Let's throw up another rolling banner. How about that one? Why don't you consider a one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com? You could consider that, Wayfarer. Right? I do a lot of good work for you guys. Working my ass off on the internet, bringing you the hermetic truths. Let's get to that next page. The mature hermetic may officially belong to any religion, depending on whether he really wants to do so and whether he considers it preferable in his dealings with people, perhaps to avoid drawing attention of the immature individuals to himself. However, in the innermost of his spirit and his entire being, he will profess universal religion, by which the universal lawfulness is to be understood. An initiate does not believe in anything unless he can convince himself of its validity. Neither does he believe in any personified deity, any kind of idol. Rather, he worships universal law and harmony in all forms. Yeah, these few words suffice to demonstrate the difference between relative and absolute religious philosophies of religion. Next up, magic and the mysteries. You guys ready for that second section? You might be. Let's find out. Looks like there might be a couple of folks out there in Happy Land. See if anybody wants to join the show. Throughout the ages, magic and mysticism have been taught simultaneously with equal emphasis in the secret schools for the priests. For these two basic philosophical outlooks have always been extremely important in Hermetic science and will continue to be so in the future. Magic was an integral part. Is there more text down there that I'm missing? I think there is. I think I'm gonna have to drop that banner for a second. Is that a banner or a media asset? No, that was it. Okay. I wasn't missing any text there. I thought I was. Yeah. They're gonna cover. That covers a little bit there, huh? That's good. Be a timer so that when I get to the bottom of the page, I can drop the banner. Integral part of those sciences that developed in the course of time on the prime material plane, and of everything which concerned this plane. Therefore, all technical knowledge, no matter which field of science, was passed on from master to student at the discretion of the sagely cast of the sages, not just the priests. I mean, they called it a priestly class, but to think of it that way is not entirely accurate, right? You had, it says chemistry, physics, and astronomy, but there was also metallurgy, alchemy, herbology, botany, and those were also included in the field of magic. Let's have a JP Farrell, guys. How about that? roll on down the road. On the other hand, everything insubstantial, such as religion, philosophy, and the understanding of God, morality, virtues, abilities, and qualities of kind, fell within the scope of mysticism. Therefore, the Hermetic point of view, magic cannot be separated from mysticism, because where there is no lawful, substantial, material basis, neither can there be any abilities, nor any virtues, nor moral views. With time and the development of humankind, the material sciences have isolated themselves from their own progress. By necessity, they have become independent, since the higher inherent laws of matter and substance, which could no longer be perceived in the course of physical senses, and for which a certain maturity was required for their comprehension, isolated themselves. You could use a proofreader and an editor. I think the first thing I would do if I was editing this text would be to make all of the language gender neutral. I think that's important for people these days. It's not for me. I grew up reading books that said man and he and stuff. And they just, by way of course, excluded women. So there was some gender bias, but at the same time, he was also meant to be inclusive of she. I mean, if you're reading the book and you're a woman, then that shouldn't be something that inhibits you in any way. He implies she, also inclusive. And man implies mankind, including women and child. I don't think either were permitted to study magic, or really should study magic. Women have an intuitive knack for magic. I think their magic is more akin to sorcery, whereas men are the only ones that were empowered by God to study magic in the ancient world. Maybe in the modern world, we can see some of that. For sure. Not so old school that I would love to use magic. He's going to go on to define terms a little more, which we don't necessarily need to go over. Let's get into the next point. The next point is going to be mysteries of hermetic anatomy. Let's find out what that's all about, huh? What do you think about that? Check it out. Check it out, y'all. In this chapter 1, chapter 3, bro. In this chapter, I will direct the reader's attention from the general challenge of magic and mysticism to the occult anatomy of man, which includes woman. I will lead him or her to reflect upon the subject exhaustively from the magico-mystical point of view, which as regards one's initiation is the most important viewpoint. Magico-mystical point of view being the most important for initiation. The fourth tarot card symbolizes the wisdom of Solomon, and therefore it is important that one should learn to know thoroughly. Therefore, it is important that one should learn to know thoroughly from the magical, mystical point of view the nature of man's own nature, everything one does, and all the functions of one's activities. Know thyself. Man, know thyself is a prophetic accent. So what does that mean? Man, know thyself. What do you think? What does it mean to you? Some tasty chew. It's nice. Man, know thyself. What does that mean to you? Species Traders. Greetings and welcome, Species Traders. Are you an aspiring occultist? Well, that's an interesting question. I don't exactly know what that means. An aspiring occultist. I guess you could say I am. I'm a student of Hermetic science and a natural-born magician. And I'm getting busy with some of Solomon's wisdom here for your edification and entertainment, whichever you may be here for. Welcome, Wayfarer. Good to see you once again. You're doing well on this non-Sabbath day. We're talking about know thyself. It is an important Hermetic axiom which stimulates us to penetrate magically and mystically into the deeper aspects of humankind. Each detail of one's character will then unfold automatically. Automatically what? Right? Automatically the knowledge of the functions and principles which I now describe. He's going to start getting into the three Dantian. Interesting. This individual says, what do you plan on getting out of delving into the unknown or hidden? Teach us those hidden things which we must know for the completion of the great work and the glory of thy ineffable name, Adonai. Do you understand that, Species Trader? It's to have conversation and communication with my holy guardian angel, to stand in God's celestial palace and look at him eye level, to be surrounded by the four archangels in defense of my subtle origin. Union with the Godhead, my friend, the grand architect. What do you plan to get out of asking that question? The mental or spiritual body located in the third eye Danti, the celestial palace. In my first book, Initiation into Hermetics, I could only give rough outline of the mental body. The first tarot card not permitting more than that. In this book, I'm going to expand the student's knowledge from both the magical and mystical standpoint, insofar as the functions of the mental and spiritual body are concerned. That's good magic right there. Franz Barton, Initiation into Hermetics. Have you read it, Wayfarer? Do you know the secret? Do you know the silver key? Riddle of steel? Who or what is my guardian angel? My higher divine genius? I have 3. Do you know how many troglodytes are in the Fathomless Cavern? Are you here just to ask silly questions? Yeah, that's an arbitrary statement. You're not here for me. If you were here for me, you would be here in a spirit of fellowship, not a spirit of challenging. If you think, Species Trader, that you can challenge Franz Barton, Israel Regardi, McGregor Mathers, Master Nihua Ching, if you think you can challenge the great grandmasters Yu Dongbing, Yunsher Tianzun, if you think you have greater awareness than super spiritual beings that have never even incarnated in human form and don't come from the human realm that I communicate with daily, the Sanchi, do you know anything about anything, or you just cut your head straight? It doesn't bother me, but I just think it's silly. I know you're trying to lead towards something, but it's just on a map. It's not transferable truths. It's It's not the universal truth or the universal way. If it were, your line of questioning would be a little different. The mental body consists of the most subtle substance, also called mental matter. The mental matter is connected to the earth element, to the base material body, due to the cohesive force of that element. The mental body is immortal and subject to neither time nor space. Its basic characteristics allow it to conform to any shape, No, I don't generally consider asking questions combative, but your line of questioning is a little bit superficial and it seems antagonistic. Do you want to come on and talk about it? It'd be much easier rather than reading your checks to just have a direct conversation with you. But yeah, if you're going to be combative and try to teach me something, I'm not here to learn from you. I'm here to study the Anseratic mysteries together in spirit fellowship. I can learn from everything, of course, and I do enjoy having an interactive stream, as you say. But to say things like, I'm here not for me, but for you, what does that even mean? I don't get it. If you were truly here for me, then you would understand a little bit, probably, about the Frank Monday experience, and you might do some elbow, you might get out the fucking roll up your sleeves and do some work studying the Hermetic tradition or the tradition of Taoism. You would bring something to the table other than speculative questions that really lead nowhere. I asked you a question. Why don't you try answering that? I said, what does no se te ipsum mean to you? What does it mean to you, friend? No se te ipsum. Can you give me an answer to that? And why don't you jump on? Are you disinclined to chat with your voice? And of course, it says open chat, right? Frank Monday in a bathrobe, open chat. Okay. Well, there you go. You've got some learning to do then. Okay, so in the mental body, that one will find the so-called I consciousness, the consciousness of the self, which is a union of willpower, intelligence, and perception. So chew on that for a minute. Think about it. Willpower, will, the wizard's will. Intelligence, the liquid power of the mind, the malleable, mercurial element. And perception, the chamber of echoes, the labyrinth of mirrors. Reflections within reflections. Let's find out. Let's go a little further. Further down into the clip-off. If any of these three basic principles are missing, there will be no I. For it is the trinity in the mental body that constitutes I. Consciousness of the spirit of man. If one or the other of these three principles disengaged, human consciousness cannot function. The development of these three basic principles depends upon one's general development and maturity. From the Hermetic point of view, quantity and quality must also be considered in this case. The quantity of the will rests upon its power, and its quality rests upon its content. All right, we have a little question out here in Happy Land. Species traders. Why are you a trader to species? I'm not teaching species traders. I'm actually just making what's called a live jive archive. I'm just reading it so that later on, when I'm bored at work and I need some audio feedback, I will listen to it. I will listen to myself read this text so that I can create basically what I'm doing with the live jive archive. If you're new, is I'm just creating a feedback loop that later I can listen to. I'm creating an archive of audio books that I read and interact with people and then reflect on my interactions with people. So if you come by and you want to chat, then we can interact, and later I can listen back to it and absorb the wisdom of the Golden Book of Wisdom and judge my reactions and cultivate myself spiritually. Yeah, I do. Like my middle pillar video here on my channel. I don't know if you're subbed to my channel or not, but if you are, then I've got a middle pillar video on here that I taught myself the middle pillar with. I've got a lot of privated videos that are just reading without interruption that I use as audio bank. And one of my favorite stories, The Alchemist. I've listened to it because there's no other volumes of The Silver Key or The Alchemist by Lovecraft that are encoded correctly. I encoded it from the original master who read it back in the 1970s. And since then, it hasn't been read correctly. And my encoding of it is almost perfect. And I did that from memory. But yeah, that's basically what's going on. But I'm here to chat with people too, because I consider it an electronic platform for fellowship and hanging out, talking to people and stuff like that. People that are interested in magic, hermetic sciences, mind science, the question of who are you, why are you here, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's not. It's recording fine on my end. It might be bugged out for you where you're receiving it, but here it's just fine. And when I play back later, it'll be fine. All right, so he goes on, he says, there must accomplish other functions besides those mentioned above, and just as everything living can only be maintained by taking in the appropriate nourishment, so the needs of the mental body must also be met. The hermetic may possibly be engaged with the following question: with what or in what way is the mental body nourished? There you go. So there's a question for you. With what do you nourish your mental body? I'll wait for you to answer. I'll check. But I'm sure it's just fine. Yeah, just play it. It's playing fine. I'm sure it's just fine. Let's see, let's go back a minute. What you do is I'm just creating that, and later I can listen to a great archive of audio books that I read and interact with people and reflect on the interactions. So if you want to chat, then we can interact. Yeah, it sounds fine to me. There was a little bit of choppiness, but it still sounds fine. I'm not going for archival quality. Yeah, don't assume anything. The worst you could do would be to assume, right? I'm asking you, I think, what do you think? Knowledge, probably. No, not so much. Not in my opinion. Maybe in your opinion. Don't project your understanding on me. The question's here. With what or in what way is the mental body nourished? And I think he's a little bit inaccurate in directly asserting that the mental body and the spiritual body are not. This is a misconception by those guys who do too much LSD in the 60s and 70s. And anyone really who uses drugs or alcohol to try to arrive at mystic knowledge, they're just fooling themselves. I know that by drinking a few beers and feeling a little bit fluid, that's not spiritual cultivation. Dropping LSD or eating mushrooms, that's not spiritual cultivation. After years of practicing Qigong and meditation and movement arts to circulate the Qing Qi Shen within the body, not just the Qi. I know Westerners like to talk about Qi a lot, but it's not just about your Qi, it's about your Jing, Qi, and Shen. You have to know how to interact with those correctly. So if you're asking, I'll tell you. If not, I'll just move on. As I have pointed out, the electromagnetic fluids in the mental body are constantly in motion because of reciprocity. This condition leads to a certain consumption of both fluids. This consumption is compensated through the impressions of the senses from either the mental, astral, or material planes. However, if the senses are overexerted, a decrease of mental power will result, regardless of which part of the body may be affected. I do hear that choppiness a bit, now that you mention it. Nothing I can do about it, though. I don't have my microphone. So I'm working with the inboard microphone on the computer and a poor internet connection. So Species Trader says tell. I will. I would be more than happy to. I'll listen. Yeah, not to worry. It might not. It might not clear up. Sometimes it doesn't. That's the thing about being in China behind the bamboo firewall. You don't always get a good transmission. Not to worry though. If you came on to chat, it would be a little more interesting. I could address you directly. I don't know if you're a swine or not. And Jesus said, don't give sacred things to dogs. And don't cast your pearls before the swine. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I think entails. If you can hear me clearly, if not, it's kind of fucking self-defeating, right? A little bit like jerking yourself off. It's all right, though. It wouldn't be the first time someone jerked themselves off, right? Okay, I wasn't antagonizing you. I was just extending an olive branch. Yeah, so I'll go into it a little bit, I think. He asks the question. He says, with what or in what way is the mental body nourished? And I would say in a number of different ways. One is, and I won't go too deep into internal alchemy, but I'll say that one of the great things lacking in this platform that I've become a part of through YouTube is any kind of genuineness in people. They tend to approach each interaction with a lot of cynicism. And I think that, I was expressing some of that cynicism probably. But, yeah, and that's a learned behavior. And that doesn't nourish your mental, spiritual body in any way. I think it's a bad idea. But your name gives me a label, right? Like if I look at a can of beer, it says Budweiser, I know what it is. And when you come in with this profile pic and your title saying species traders, then I feel like I've picked up a bottle of poison, right? A trader is typically viewed as something disloyal and even felonious. So it's an injurious thing. If you identify yourself as a traitor to the species, then I think that in some way you're harmful. Yeah, so why label yourself like that? Right? My label is very clear and easy to understand. Frank Monday, Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon. I'm not hiding anything. All hail the Father God. All hail the Mother Hydra. Cthulhu has risen. So yeah, it just seems a little bit spurious to me, man. Not that it fucking matters. Who cares, right? Do whatever the fuck you want. You do you. It should be remembered that in normal use of the senses, the consequences will be a certain loss of electromagnetic fluids, but that this is balanced out by their inductive form. In other words, the mental body receives new spiritual substances via the senses, from which it obtains its nourishment. And so, yeah, this is part of it. Engaging in philosophical conversations that pertain to the supernatural and the paranormal and the mystic nourish the mental energy, nourish the mental body. If they're not rooted in fantasy, they must absolutely be rooted in the scientific method of investigating paranormal phenomena and spiritual phenomena, the truth of the spiritual world via the balance of logic and intuition. Logic and reason on one side, intuition and artistry on the other. These are things that people don't seriously consider anymore. They talk about them at the level of belief and say, oh, do you believe in this or you believe in that? They discourse on them at the intellectual level, but they don't reach to the truth of the thing. And thus, very little spiritual cultivation is derived from those types of conversations. If you want to penetrate deeply, you have to be present and genuine. There can't be any guile. If you contain even the slightest bit of guile and are unwilling to deeply contemplate truth, spiritual truth, and universal law, then there's no way forward. Yeah. The qualities that the mental body receives through the impressions of the senses depend in principle on the individual's train of thought, and apart from that, on the particular situation which the mental body must endure. It's interesting that he should say it that way, because vexation can definitely arise. And there are times that the frequency, the incoming frequency, is static and chaos. And it doesn't come from a deep, profound level. It comes from a very superficial level, like a babbling brook. Thus, Lao Tzu said, "Those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know." And you can see my mouth moving, which Lao Tzu would immediately put me into the category of an ignorant wayfarer, a true fool. And I accept that title at this time. As long as I'm talking, I'm probably full of shit. And that holds true for you as well, species trader. If you're talking, you're full of shit as well. And as a result, can you be believed in fact? And the answer is easy. No. I didn't follow what you said there, bro. Do you identify as a man or a woman? Species trader. Forgot the S. Oh, species traders? Yeah, I don't have all day to figure out your name, man. But it looks like the label on a bottle of poison to me. I'm just saying. If I picked it up and it had a skull and crossbones and said poison, do not eat, I probably wouldn't eat it, because I'm not. I may be a fool, but I'm not a complete fool. So yeah, don't listen to me talk. Listen to Franz Barden, the Master Magus. He says it's recommended that one enrich one's knowledge on this subject by in-depth meditation, because by so doing, the hermetic will discover many mysteries of the spirit, which I cannot possibly reveal here. The hermetic must have a thorough knowledge of the constitution of the mental body and all its functions in order to be able to analyze it by psychoanalysis. And yeah, again, these guys were so big into their Freudian psychoanalysis. Does it matter? I know it doesn't matter. Not really, but if you're not just a bot, right? If you're not just an AI programmed bot to produce engagement on my chat room, which is possible, YouTube has taken a little more interest in me, right? I picked up like 30 subs in the past couple of weeks, which means that YouTube is showing some interest, and YouTube is dominated and controlled by a hive mind, a series of algorithms controlled by an artificial general intelligence. And as a result, it's highly possible that they could just put a discursive bot into the chat room. So unless I speak to you directly and can give you the Turing test, right, I will not know if you are human or not. And yes, that matters, because only humans really should interact with other humans in an intellectual manner, in a spiritual manner, and in discussing philosophy. They most certainly should not interact with bots. There were many prohibitions put forth in ancient times because of the last great destruction by automated systems, that we shouldn't allow that to happen again. But here we are, right? Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. Willie Waits and DARPA, they just don't give a fuck about the ancient warnings. So yeah, they lack wisdom in bringing forward those things. All right, let's move on to the next page. Slide 12. I wonder how many slides there are in this package. It doesn't just show me a number. Oh, it does. Wow. Oh, this is the last one. Yeah, I don't know how advanced AI is now these days. I would say no, not for the most part. And if you are AI or bot, it's probably more money than they would be willing to invest in my channel, because it costs money, right? It costs tokens. So in order for a bot to process the language, put it into script, and then analyze the script, all of that would require a lot of tokens. And then to be able to respond in real time to the level to which you are able to would be, again, more expensive than I would imagine they would be willing to spend at this point on a channel with only 700 subs. Here's something I don't totally understand, like when they talk about electric and magnetic fluids. I'm imagining they're referencing in the Chinese system what we call qi, or jing qi and shen. So there's jing qi, there's qi, there's wei qi, there's yuan qi, and there's all different forms of shen and wu qi and different types of spiritual energies that I'm familiar with. But in Hermetics, when they discuss it on the level of electric and magnetic fluids within the human body, I do believe that's what they're referencing. With an eye on these electric and magnetic fluids, I should now like to disclose further facts to the Hermetic. Physics has made it known that not only are electricity and magnetism bipolar, but they may be used either constructively or destructively. The same is the case with the electromagnetic fluids. In their constructive activities, both fluids are the fortifying principles of the spirit, which means that they represent everything good and noble. The destructive activities of the electromagnetic fluid brings about the contrary qualities. So I can expand on this a little bit in language that I understand, and you might understand as well. I don't know. But okay, so if we compare these electric and magnetic fluids to, in the man, we have the jing qi, which is the sexual urge, the seminal fluid, the actual semen itself, and its tendency to want to excite and escape the body. This is a destructive act. Every time you offload due to agitation and sexual interest and desire for physical contact, it takes away from the next stage up, is what we call the yuan qi, your original endowment of this electromagnetic energy. However, as many doctors have pointed out, even if you're celibate and you don't ejaculate, then your prostrate will wither and die. Your prostate will wither and die. And the same holds true for the woman. Woman is endowed with the ovaries and a different sexual function than man, right? We have man and we have woman. Gendrification, split evenly along the Taiji. There are two genders, man and woman. So this is definitely not in speaking to children. They have nothing to do with sexuality. And in the Taoist tradition, human beings shouldn't engage in that type of behavior until they're in their 20s. So some people bring to the table and they say, well, what's the age of consent? It's like, well, by the Taoist tradition, it's 25 for men and 22 for women. Women are a little younger because if they choose not to engage in breeding, then they must follow a very strict monastic life and turn off the menstrual cycle. I mean, if they want to achieve longevity and spiritual cultivation. If not, they just run around doing whatever the fuck they want, having abortions and doing whatever, but they're just going to die a hungry ghost. Upon their death, death will be real. But for those of us who would like to live on in spiritual immortality, there is a pathway to it. And it's not just in calling upon the name of Buddha or the name of Jesus. This is a hollow type of fantasy. It'll work if you're seriously genuine and sincere in your supplication to that spirit. But it's not the path of the magician. So we can see from this that both are incorrect. Willy-nilly becoming a sexual outlaw and engaging in degenerative sexual behavior, exploding all over the place as a man or a woman, right? Like we saw poor Lily Phillips sacrifice her soul on the altar of materialism recently by having sex with 100 men. Online, on a stream. We might not have seen this, but it's there. And her direct intention in doing this is to bring about a Sodom and Gomorrah in the UK, because it's a distraction from the raping of young women in that country, right? Who can cry foul of rape of a 15-year-old girl when there's a 20-year-old girl bedding 100 of these men in one night? So we can see the psychological operation here, the psyop. The first great, well, we'll move into the third. The third great deception is just that. It's the deception. No, it's the second one. I'm sorry. The second great lie in the world is the blasphemy of the feminine spirit. Interacting with a woman, or a man and a woman interacting in sex, is a super sacred thing. It requires a vast store of human energy mentally to triangulate and strategize as a man to bed a woman. And the moment of inception should be absolute entry into heaven. And then in the Taoist tradition, it's what we call flowery battle. So that's one of the highest levels of spiritual cultivation. It's sex magic. It's the alchemical wedding of the sun and moon. It's truly embracing being within the celestial realm of God and the gods. Looks like my internet's probably cutting out. Oh no. So that's a big thing. It's a big deal. Yeah. So in the path that I follow, I don't know, I can lay it out for you a little bit. Number one is that there has to be a investigation into the nature of God and a deep analysis and evaluation of these narratives we've received. That on the one hand, you have the super materialistic scientific assessment and pseudoscientific, really, of a big bang and an evolution, and that everything arose from nothing and we're just here by chance, right? And then on the other hand, this creation theory that God brought it about, which doesn't jive, it doesn't track with the Taoist idea. The Taoist idea is that this great engine of the cosmos is in fact sui generis, that it's self-so and beyond the comprehension of mankind. Maybe there are certain geniuses who can contemplate it. Very few, I would imagine. Maybe one or two on the entire planet alive at any given time. But with that, you still research and find, does this narrative that I'm buying into track with what I can tangibly and spiritually and intuitively grok and know to be real? And does it work for you? At the end of the day, does it serve you? Is it serviceable to your path? So, whether you think you rose up from the monkeys or you descended from the angels, either way, you're right. If you're evolved from primates over a long hundreds of thousands, millions of years of evolution on a spinning ball flying through the cosmos, then in some way you are correct. If, on the other hand, you dwell within a vast prime material plane of spiritualized matter, agitated matter, as it were, and you descended into this through the red aura of your mother and father engaging in lovemaking, and you came from a realm of preforms, a timeless homeland, where angelic beings and super spiritual beings dwell, and you weren't tricked here into a soul well or a soul trap, but you came here on the vow of compassion and were raised in a beautiful, wonderful family, and you interact with the world and get a lot of positive feedback, then maybe you are a descendant of angelic forces, like I believe that I am. Do I believe it? Not really. Not really. I know. I think there's a difference. I do. When I was very young, I had pre-birth thoughts before they started to tell me the stories. In fact, I would tell my parents of my dreams, and I would tell them the stories. And it was only later, when I went to school, I started to learn about these things. But when I was very young, I spoke of my grandfather, whom I'd never met, and told my father details about him. And other people have had these experiences. And I was floating on multicolored clouds, and there were cherubs all around, and the great throne of the king. And I could describe all these things in great detail, and I still can to this day. In fact, those are some of the most powerful memories that I carry with me. And upon the physical death of my father, many things occurred afterwards which confirmed it. And I won't go through all of them here because it's quite a tale, and it's all on my channel already. But then when 2 weeks before my mother passed, my father returned. And most recently, my brother has returned. He died in 2020. And over the last couple of nights, as I lay in bed and contemplate Dreamland, he's finally returned. It's taken him a while. Like my dad, he came back pretty quick, like within the first month. And those experiences, they're realer than real. They're realer than this mundane realm of colored dust, right? Where everything's a little bit dull and a little bit uninteresting and a little bit fake. When you interact on that spiritual level, the super sensual level with the dead, because the dead are among us. And they can't really be called dead because they're more alive than we are. Again, you don't believe, you know. Yeah, so there it is there. I mean, in a word, that was my 60-second elevator pitch. So these days, what are we calling it? We're calling it spiritual science, as Rudolf Steiner called it. I can, species traders. Yes, I can. But it's limited. Like, I can't just dial them up like a phone call. Maybe I could, but I don't have fucking time for it. I work 50 to 60 hours a week at an academy, and I use a lot of my free time to do lesson prep. I'm a high school teacher. So I'm glad the semester's over. That's why I'm having a bit of a beer. But yeah, if life was perfect and I could jump up every morning and have some warm porridge and sit in meditation and do some energy circulation, burn some incense, and call up spirits, yes, I could communicate with them directly through deep meditation and astral travel. But as a wizard living in the modern world, I'm only able to do this in times of rest. So every day they communicate with me as I awaken in the morning and throughout the night while I sleep. These are journeys in Dreamland, right? And I've mapped out Dreamland. I know very precisely how it works. And I was trained in hypnotism when I was quite young, and I touched spirits and ghosts. When my grandmother passed, I went to her grave, her funeral, and there were dragonflies everywhere. And I said, "Grandma, if you're here," I stuck out my finger, and I said, "Grandma, if you're here, make a dragonfly land on my finger." And within moments, I've got pictures, I got family that can confirm all of it. I think I was 19 at the time, maybe a little younger, maybe I was 17. And a beautiful rainbow-colored, multicolored dragonfly landed at my finger. And I went into a trance, a meditative voyage into the dragonfly's eyes. And I saw my face reflected in every facet. If you've ever looked at a dragonfly really close, you know what I'm talking about. And my face was reflected in every facet of the eye. And the dragonfly spoke to me with my grandmother's voice. And I mean, that's just one of hundreds of paranormal encounters that I've had. And as my other family was gathered around the funeral, they saw this transpire. They knew it was a spiritual encounter as well. As of late, okay, so some recent things like the Trump assassination attempt, I was there spiritually for the bullet. I wrote that that is in my journals, the records of my journals. In 2016 is when I foresaw that. And it didn't happen until when? 2024, right? That happened this year. Yeah, so I was there for 8 years before it happened. But there have been multiple attempts on Trump's life. More recently, I've brought back some prophetic visions from what's called the the ledge of revelation. So I could teach it to you if you want to know. I mean, if you're just asking to stimulate conversation, that's one thing. But if you're genuinely a spiritual wayfarer and you want to learn these methods, you can realize it in 30 seconds, or it might take you 30 years, or you may never see it in 30 lifetimes. It's up to you. But it's a pretty simple path, a pretty straightforward. Genuineness and sincerity, persistence and determination. I've never been able to achieve telekinesis to any tangible extent. Like, I've never seen it react immediately. So that's one that I think is a very high level, hard to achieve spiritual power. I've never seen anyone else do it either. But I have attained spiritual attunement and seeing birds and other creatures react to the chi flowing around my body. But like knocking over an inanimate object or something with my chi, I've never been able to do that, and I've tried. So I don't know if that's a power that, like, a genuine thing that I could achieve in this lifetime. Maybe at some point. Maybe after I die. I'll come back and knock a few things around just for fun, like a poltergeist. Well, I asked you questions as well, so you could communicate by offering something too. Like, are you genuinely interested in a spiritual path? Have you had encounters with the paranormal? I mean, it's not just about me exposing myself, right? It's also about interaction. I give a little and you give a little. Just asking a question isn't, it can guide the narrative, but it's not conversation. It's not like, oh, I can see, commentary, analysis, that type of thing. I'm not looking for feedback per se. I don't want to give you any either. Oh, and the other thing is, like, it's fine. Ask as many questions as you like. That's perfectly acceptable. But the other thing is that I would say 95% of the revelations that I've received aren't for general consumption. They're for me personally. And I think that anyone on a given spiritual path, most revelations and prophetic things will be for them personally. Like me interacting with the situation at Trump's assassination, it really doesn't have anything to do with anyone but me, right? It was my perception of something I recorded in my journals, and then it came to be. And I know there was a guy on YouTube that recently got involved with that, and he attempted to receive a lot of, attention and fame, and that's not what I'm after here. If I was after attention and fame, I would do things much differently. No, it's not. Again, no, species. It's not my intention to teach. It's my intention to study and learn cooperatively in a spirit of fellowship. I'm not here to teach anything. Socrates said, you cannot teach a man anything. You can only inspire them to learn. So yeah, I'm here definitely to light the fire under your ass to get interested in spiritual science. But no, I'm not here to teach. We're only here to remember, right? What am I going to teach you to do? Smoke Marlboro Reds and drink Budweiser Tall Boys? Yeah, that's not helpful. If you try to learn from like a guru, then all you typically pick up are their bad habits. If you're inspired by someone and you seek out the light of truth on your own, then you derive its greater benefit. What does Flow State say? He's here for the loosh, right? I'm here for you to put a little something in the tip jar. And not really. I got a full-time job where I make plenty of money. But it is one way for us to interact when I'm not live streaming. Like, I've noticed nobody puts comments on the videos really. And so there can't be an ongoing conversation. Whereas with buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday, we can have deeper conversations. Like I'll respond to you. You don't have to buy anything to like one of my posts and interact with me on Buy Me a Coffee, but I like to use that one a little more for in-depth conversation. And I can post things, PDFs and stuff and more information, because people don't interact. It doesn't seem that people interact with YouTube in that way. Yeah, according to Socrates, if we take into consideration Cicero, Seneca, Socrates, Aristotle, Aristophanes, Aristeas, any of these great guys that were in the Greek tradition, because the Greek and the Chinese tradition are like mirrors of each other. They existed simultaneously, 500 BC, right before the Common Era, and were like nearly perfect reflections of each other. I like the Chinese one because all of their language is encoded in pictures, in pictographs, right? Like, I can give you an example of that. Like, let's see. Here's an easy one. So here's the pictograph for bright and clear. And what it basically represents bright and clear. This is the ancient Shang Dynasty pictograph. A sun and a moon. You can even add a star in there if you like. And they used this ancient pictograph. It becomes the modern character Ming, which means bright and clear. The Ming Dynasty, right? Ming Bai, to be clear on something. So for me, like, that's my symbol of Lunar Light Entertainment, right? And it also is the great king's name. Sol, O Moon, sun and moon. Yeah, I've had a lot of chats with Socrates and Lao Tzu. Those are my two main secret chiefs that I commune with at the Invisible College. So when you go into deep meditation, and you should start with, well, David is king, Solomon is his son, but yeah, Solomon is my king. Spiritually, although the tradition of Solomon. But again, it's not the single man, Solomon, and his wisdom. It's the point. If you think about the man himself and say, oh, it's Frank Monday, right? Frank Monday, the moon, right? That's not what it is. You're missing the point, right? You're focusing on the finger pointing at the moon. The moon is the message. Yeah, a little bit, the Goetia. Our system of sigils in Chinese is far more complex than Solomon's keys. You see, most of the Hebrew tradition actually comes from China originally. And the Shang Dynasty wizards is what empowered many of the magics of Solomon. And his The Lemegeton and things left behind are basically like kindergarten level. They're not at the level of high Taoist magic. Our sigils are far more complex and entail many more elements. Like, these are just some basic elements I can show you because you're not an initiate. It sounds like you know something, but it doesn't. I don't know if you're interested in that type of thing. On YouTube is not the appropriate place to study it. But yeah, you know more than you're revealing, obviously. And that's cool. It's a fun way to go about it. Magic, and thank you for joining me today, Species Trader. I've got one more. Throw that up there for a second again. I've got one more Budweiser tall boy. I'll make sure there isn't any rat piss on the top of the can, because that'll poison you, right? That wouldn't be any kind of fun. So let's see, how long have we been going? An hour and 30 minutes? Yeah, good matching. Fun to be sure. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I was a little apprehensive up front because I had an interaction recently with a fella who is a bit toxic. And I've had a couple of interactions with folks recently that have made me a little off kilter, right? A little off center. And somehow betray the path within me. And I mean, only at a superficial level. Obviously, my day-to-day cultivation isn't influenced by anything that goes on YouTube. But at the same time, if someone puts a rat turd in your soup, yeah, no, I agree with you. But you know, if you're making a lovely pot of stew and you've spent here, let me give you this analogy, if I may. And you spent all morning going out to the veggie markets and haggling for the prices of carrots and onions and peppers, and then you went by the butcher and you picked up a pound of fresh meat, and you had to make sure that he wasn't cheating you. And you picked that up because they're always engaged in some sort of, finger on the scale and this type of thing. And you're a little jaded by the world. You get back and you're dealing with a big ceramic pot that your great grandmother left to you, and someone knocked it one time, got a crack in it. You had to repair it and mend it yourself, and then stoking and cultivating the firewood that you yourself went out and chopped down and labored in off the mountains. And in a domicile that you didn't necessarily build, but your father's father and his father, they built it brick by brick. And you're living in this situation, and the amount of effort that was required just to gather these aromatic roots and some other things, maybe some potato, and you have a big sack of dry beans, and you go and you have to stoke the fire with the billows, and you cook up the meat, and you slice and cut and wash, and it's water that you had to bring in, on your back, and you pour this fresh water into the pot, the ceramic pot, you stoke the fire, and you get everything ready. You've got to go stage by stage. Iron skillet, the wok has to cook part of it, and you're managing hundreds, but dozens of things simultaneously in order to bring all together so that you make wonderful bean stew, and after an entire day of effort, it could take upwards of 8 hours if all elements are considered, to just start the process. And you might be able to eat some of it that evening, but you're really not going to get the payoff on that stew until like day 3. That's when the real magic sets in, chilies that were grown the year before by your own hand. 17 different varieties. Wine that you made 10 years ago by your own hand again. I've done all of these things. And you get all of that ready, and it's at the fucking peak of perfection. And some motherfucker comes by and throws a dead rat in it. I mean, you could do it again, right? It'd take years to regrow all those peppers, to gather all of that mystic medicine. But you're certainly going to be pissed off that that particular motherfucker came by and threw a dead rat in all of your hard work and destroyed it. Because, and honestly, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter. The process is what's important. In Eastern mysticism, as you mentioned here, it's the process of gathering, processing, and doing. It's the formula. If you know the formula, you can recreate it. You might not be able to find the best herbs or the best roots or the best mystic medicine, but it doesn't fucking matter because you have the method instilled within you and you've practiced it thousands of times. He whose name shall not be spoken. I won't give him any fucking credit. But yeah, he basically, he threw a bird turd in the soup, and it's kind of a bummer because it made me react poorly on, and this rat is, I won't say, not at this point. But it made me react poorly. See, I had cultivated, that's right. I had cultivated a relationship with a couple of people that I felt like I was making ground, and I was doing it through hard work and sincerity. And then after this experience with Voldemort and the dead rat, I went and I shit in my own nest, and I offloaded some of that negativity that I had received. And as a result, I burned bridges that it took me a long time to build. And I feel remiss about it. Because in all honesty, I think this right here, our interaction, this is one of the highest levels of spiritual cultivation. You coming into the chat and asking questions that I react in a certain way to, and then me being able to judge center and go back to center and respond to you appropriately in a way that's not injurious to yourself or to others. And that somehow you or me, both together working in cooperation, guide the conversation towards growth and spiritual development. That's all there is. It's the Socratic method. It's the highest divine principle we can achieve in this lifetime. We can birth ideas and then validate the value of those ideas against other people of equal merit. And if someone comes in and they're an eloquent speaker, right? They're verbally intelligent, as we say, and they're able to override everything, throwing feces and dead rats, then nothing of value is produced. Yeah, I don't think the bridges are burned entirely, but we have an expression in Chinese. It's called what is it? Guo Chai Chao. Yeah, Guo Chai Chao. Cross the river, burn the bridge. And so it's a spirit of warfare. And I don't want to be at war. like you said at the beginning of the conversation, right? Who fucking cares what you want, right? Just because you don't want to be at war doesn't mean war's not going to come to you, and you should be prepared for it. And I should have, and you know, I'm reflecting on it, so I'm learning. The experience occurred, and now I have time to reflect and ponder. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And as a result, I can level up. Whereas the motherfucker who, once again, like Finnegan, crossed my path and entered my domain and threw a fucking dead rat in my soup, he or she, whatever that beast may be, is absolutely 100% fucking done, in my opinion. Let the dead bury the dead, is it not? Yeah, no, the living must bury the dead too. If you love and honor your ancestors, bury them and visit their graves often. And the dead are not truly dead; they are still among us. But yeah, I get the sentiment. I mean, I'm not countering your sentiment in any way. And yes, the realm of the dead is mostly for the dead and magicians and necromancers, people who seek spiritual truth and must know. There are some who can live on faith, and at death, it's fine for them. But there are others among us who must know and who must see into the realms beyond. And I don't recommend the path of the magician for you. Honestly, just be a regular person, love Jesus, and go to church on Sunday. And if you're a Buddhist, go to the temple once a month on the full moon, right? That's far easier than the path of the magician. Yeah, you do your best and live to your virtue. You know, like species traders here says, all one can do is their best. Well, yeah, you know, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're just too fucking tired to deal with it, and that is your best, you know. And you don't gotta wear yourself out or exhaust all of your energies in pursuit of capital or money or spiritual learning or sexuality or anything. It's about balance, I believe, yeah, to some extent, but it's about retaining too. An easy piece of wisdom from Solomon was that you should always produce more than you consume, always have a little left over, so there is always going to be some waste. Yes, indeed. I'm a magician. I'm a wizard, warrior, a philosopher, king, a scholar. I practice angelic magic. I call upon God to guide and protect me. I call upon angelic forces to disperse demonic energies. I cultivate within an astral temple. I practice internal alchemy for transformation of my material energies into spiritual energies. I have done many paths of renunciation. I did a year of vegetarianism. I did a year of silence. I've tried all kinds of mystic medicines. I don't entirely understand this question, species trader. Why recommend again it? Why recommend it again if you are one? Why? That question, the grammar is a little bit off, so it doesn't really jive. I don't recommend the Path of the Magician for most. I have the 100-day challenge, Pathways of Magic. I think that people should learn about magic. Why recommend against it if you are one? Oh. Because I think you should be naturally inclined to choose that path on your own, like Jesus did, right? He entered into the kingdom of God, brought into the world via immaculate conception. And remember, it's not about believing that. According to the mystery school teaching, that was super common. And what I mean by that is, at that time, the world was in a different condition. And a woman in her great fertility and her youth could look outside her window, see a shooting star, and suddenly become pregnant. So in the Chinese tradition, this was super common during the Shang Dynasty. And it wasn't among girls who were sexualized. They weren't having sex with men. Some of them were completely cordoned off from society and in entirely feminine camps and encampments in their training, and they would just manifest pregnancy. And it wasn't fake pregnancy. They would give birth to people, and these people were different than your ordinary individual. They came in with different attributes, and I won't go into it because it doesn't matter what people believe in, but in the Western world, they only bring forward this one example of Jesus, when in fact it was far more common than they would have you believe. But they bottleneck everything in the intelligentsia. They bottleneck everything. And how do I know I'm a natural magician? Well, part of it is my birth story. My mother and father, they already had a few kids, and it had been close to a decade since my mother had had children. And my father said, last night when I slept, I dreamt of two angels, angelic beings, cherubs, that want to come to the world and be my sons. They told me their names, and my mom said, you're full of shit, you're fucking lying, you want to have more kids. And he said, no, this is a true thing. I was in the celestial heavens, in the starry realms beyond. My dad, he was a practical guy. He didn't buy into any horse shit. And he said, these two spirits came to me, and they want to be born as my children, my sons, and you have to bring them here. And they knocked out two more kids, and it was my older brother and me. And he named me what we told him our names were. And it just continued from generation to generation. When me and my wife were trying to have our first child, not trying, fuck. As soon as I want to have a kid, I'm ready to have a kid, right? As long as there's fertile soil, then I'm ready to plow. But I was working on my wife, and I gave her a few plowings of the field, and I laid down one day. I came home early from work one day to check on her, and I didn't know she was pregnant yet. And I grabbed her by the waist, and I fell asleep on her belly. And this is a highly spiritualized story. This is I shouldn't share it easily, but I'm going to, because the moment feels right. And as I slept, the spirit came to me, the spirit of my child, and told me her name. Said, I'm your daughter. And here's my name, right? And it was all wow, like the level of 3D processing in Dreamland was off the fucking charts. I can remember everything down to a hair tip. all the details, all the colors, from start to finish, how it all went. And I woke up suddenly. I told my wife, she was taking a bit of a nap, but she wasn't really asleep. And I said, "You're pregnant with a girl." And she said, "How do you know I'm pregnant?" And I told her about the dream. She's like, "I don't fucking believe you." She said 2 weeks ago, the doctor confirmed my pregnancy, and they had no idea the gender of the child. And I was like, there it is there. There it is there. Not only do I know who my daughter is, but she told me her name. So when she was born, I gave her name, and she looked exactly like she does in Dreamland. She's 17 now. So this was over 17 years ago. And her character and everything about her appeared exactly as it did in Dreamland. Like down to a fucking hair tip. Coloration, canter, personality, it's all there. And it was all there. And it's always been there. And it always will be there. And we come from spiritual families in the starry heavens. My father did it. I did it. My grandfather probably did it. My son will probably do it. My daughter as well. I don't know. But this, they talk about a hell realm. If you're living in a hell realm, I can't help you. You gotta pull yourself out of the sewer at some point. Yeah, good magic, and thank you for that, species trainer. I didn't give you all the details because it might take an hour just for me to go through it all, but interested when you talk about Chinese culture and mysticism, or is it just Chinese culture and the lore that is interesting? Yeah, it's the mysticism. The lore is there too. You can't really separate the two, right? Like you can't have a Bruce Lee without China, and you can't have a China without Bruce Lee, right? They're integrated. They're integral to the other. Mysticism is the contemplation of symbols. So these sigils, not just these, but like if I show you some of the more complex symbology of China, of ancient China, then like in the teachings of Franz Barton, where we started with the Golden Book of Spiritual Wisdom, when I'll take you back to page 1 here. Oh, wow. I don't know what's going on with this. Okay, there it is there. So, in Hermetic Sciences, right, we have like, this is Franz Barton, Golden Book of Wisdom, Solomon's Wisdom, really. These things, all of these things, can come about through pictorial representations. So the Proto-Hebrew, the original Hebrew language as it was written, it's actually Shang Dynasty characters. So we see a direct correlation between ancient Hebrew and the ancient Chinese Shang Dynasty. And what it means is that our first thoughts were done through emojis, as it were. And the ancient Egyptians have their hieroglyphs, the Chinese have their they're called jaguan, or bone oracles, and then the ancient Hebrews have their pictures in stone, their pictographs, and we're all one family under heaven, really. But here's the difference. The Egyptian ones are pretty advanced, but they're a little bit confusing to read. Whereas the ancient Chinese ones are line art and very simple and very powerful and packed with meaning in a single one. So the ancient mind in man still today can penetrate into deeper mysteries by learning to understand this system of writing. It's speaking doesn't really matter. The speaking isn't really a thing, because you have to articulate the soundless. You have to perceive the invisible. You have to grasp the intangible. And only then, in the mystic moment, can you connect with the true origin of life. Maybe somehow, like, oldest surviving nation in the world or somewhere, at least, yeah, with a continuous transmission, an unbroken transmission. And to what we understand, yeah, this is somehow true. But anyway, that gives you an insight into my interest into it, because supposedly that's a fact. But again, use your intuition. When you look at Chinese characters, do you feel that it's the oldest representation? I know I do. And I've studied it long and hard for, 40 years now. 40 years I've been studying Chinese. So yeah, for me, it seems legit. I don't know though. Like you said, as we're told, could be horseshit. And in fact, I'll tell you a secret. I studied Chinese and sought out Chinese systems of enlightenment for a solid 30 years, from 13 to 43, and never received much in the way of enlightenment. And when I went back to Hebrew, you see, my family is not Orthodox Jews, but when I went back to the study of Hebrew, I actually, I don't know, I'm not going to get into detail because it's extensive and it could take several hours to explain all of the transformations that occurred. But basically, it was like lighting a fuse and a firecracker went off in my head. The ancient Hebrew language, the simple first words of the Bible, Yod He Ba He, right? I am what I am. Ani Yahava, let there be light. Like, you don't even need to go further than that. That's the abracadabra of all magic right there. For some reason, maybe it's the what do they call it? The Demogorgon. Maybe that's his name. Maybe it's what brought this world into being. But fuck me, that's powerful shit right there. So yeah, that brought me full circle back to my religious upbringing of, oh God in heaven, right? And then I realized that all of the Chinese interpretation was also a direct reflection of the Greek and Hebrew teachings, that it all correlated. It's all perfectly mirrored. It's just different people in different regions with different languages. But Yod, He, Vav, He is the perfect encapsulation of Jehovah. There is no God greater that I know of. I mean, there's ideation at the human level, but wow. And the son of Jehovah, Yeshua, fuck. If you want to get mind blown, you know, you could grow up in the church and think you fucking know everything and love Jesus and all of that. And I wasn't a Methodist, but I was raised a Lutheran. It seems like you got to do some fucking work to come to some sort of realization where it actually makes sense. Like, again, I'm not going to go into depth at this point because I've had a few of these tall boys, but I think you know. If you know, you know. And so that's why I try to start off every show with the adoration of Abraxas, because it is what it is, right? I mean, fuck. Mind blown. That's all I can say. You could do 30 years of Qigong and it's not going to fucking matter as much as just sitting down and focusing on your Hebrew for a few minutes. And I don't know why that is. Like, Poker Onion, I'm an associate of the OTA, which is the Ordo Templi Astarte. And Poker Onion loves his Greek alphabet. And it does have just as much power and value. And the Chinese language as well. Again, these are sigils that we're studying. They're linguistic placeholders. But what are they holding the place for, right? That's what you have to get beyond. You can't just read, and talk. It's all horse shit. You have to penetrate deeply. Light the character with your mind in the astral temple, in its colors, with its correct frequencies, and then see the reaction. It's so much different. Here's the thing. The reason I say I'm a natural magician is because as a kid, I did and knew this. And I made real magic happen around me and in my life. I did some bad things, but ultimately it all turned out all right. But yeah, that's high magic right there. Pure white celestial magic. Right? White gold. I've said too much. I'll leave it there. Thank you for your participation and your presence, Species Trader. 8:15 p.m. here in Twilight Zone, Old Peking. That means it's real close to bedtime for me. I'm gonna take a quick shower and then hit the fucking hay. I'm gonna be in bed by 9 p.m., 9:30 at the latest. And that's typically my jive. Because I want to get up, or I like to get up at 4 or 5 a.m. In the winter, I like to sleep a little later. But yeah, I've got to get up and commune with my ancestral spirits. And Dreamland, right? Dreamland awaits. It awaits all of us. Y'all good looking, sexy people. Species Trader, I'm glad that our interaction took a more positive and constructive, upbeat. Again, I was a little cynical or reticent when you first appeared, and that's not fair. You stand on level ground. I'm glad that finally, through your efforts and mine, we met on the level, and now we can part on the square. Have you traveled far? Yeah. We are travelers. We're all wayfarers and wanderers in the vast, fathomless cavern. We're trying to make our way up, right? Through the Labyrinth of Echoes and the Chamber of Mirrors, up Ladder of Ascension to the Ledge of Revelation, beyond to the Celestial Sphere. And hopefully you get there when you get there, in the abodes of the future. Until next time, yeah, I'll do the channel sign off. Yeah, your Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, Eastern Star Division, Brendan Wellwisher, Frank Monday, wishing you a good night, traveler. Please hit the button on your way out the door. Don't let the door hit you on your ass on the way out. Visit me at the coffee page and say hello. I'll finish off with the integration of the invocation of total integration. Here we go. Indeed. There it is, sir. Heaven and earth are the spontaneous manifestations of the subtle, wondrous universal law. As the original oneness expresses itself, gross and subtle energies become distinctly divided. Our bodily caves are brightly illuminated by the mysterious light from the three sources, our three Dantian, bridge points leading to immortality. Powerful spirits of the eight directions can join our being with the true origin of life.
By the absolute order of the divine Ling Bao in the highest ninth heaven, send the positive energies of Qianluo, Dana, and Dunkan to destroy our spiritual obstacles and debilitate any evil influence. This order is given by the highest sovereignty. It is a jade oracle from the subtle origin. I invoke with strong sincerity to drive away the demons and evils and lengthen my healthy years. The attained spirits respond. The evil demon king, Mo Wang, is chained to stand as our guard and servant. The powerful atmosphere has been generated, dispersing all negativity. The Qi of Tao is everlasting. So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Amen. Good magic. All right. Once again, thank you for tuning in, traveler. And I hope you have a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you may find yourself. Don't forget, Israel Regardi tells us to invoke often and inflame yourself with prayer. Remember, O neophyte, goodness alone is power. Silence is strength. Love lieth at the foundation, and your will regaineth omnipotence. Until we meet again, keep doing good magic, and I will see you in the abodes of the field. Bye for now.